Hey guys, it's your girl T, and I'm here for my weekly recap of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Sunday was the premiere episode and we all watched it via Twitter and Facebook. I had a ball. I was tweeting my heart out. So let's get into the show. So the show opens and we see Greg and Nene, and they're opening all their gifts that they got from their fabulous wedding. If you guys missed it, Nene was on a series called I Dream of Nene the Wedding, where she remarried her estranged husband Greg. And so they were talking about the wedding and what was their most favorite part. And Nene said her favorite part was when Brent and her older son were walking her down the aisle, and they broke down crying. And I thought that was really, really sweet too, to see all the emotions and stuff that was going through her sons. So as they're opening presents, Nene says, "Oh, look, Teresa and Joe Giudice sent us a gift." So if you don't know who Teresa and Joe are, they're from the Real Housewives of New Jersey, and they're facing all types of indictments and federal charges for basically faking like they're rich and they're not. Her and her husband are looking at 20 years in prison, and these fools had the nerve to send Nene a $400 Herman's plate. I'm like, damn, folks eat out for $400 plates? Must be nice. I think instead of sending Nene a plate, they should have used that money for their attorney. So moving on, so as Nene's opening the gifts, and she's like, "I can't believe so many people sent me so many gifts, and everything was me. Greg started feeling some type of way, and he was like, "No, Nene, it's not about you. It's about us. They didn't just send these gifts to you. They also sent them to us." So as we know, Greg is old. He's not going anywhere, and he wants to be included in Nene's new life really, really bad. So moving on to the next scene, we get reintroduced to Portia. Portia is going through so much right now. Poor Portia, she found out via Twitter that her husband was divorcing her. Cordell was on some fuckboy shit, like I said on Twitter. That's something that a queen would do, just like Nene said on the show. A real man should be able to sit down with his wife and say, "These are the reasons for why I want to break up. This is why our marriage isn't working." And before he broke up with her and ran to go file a divorce, he should have tried to make it work. Because to me, Portia seems like a really good woman. She seems like she was a really good wife, and like she wanted her marriage. And it seems like she was also willing to give it another shot, even after the way he disrespected her, even after the way he put out their business out there. She was willing to go into the deposition and basically ask him, would he go through a counseling, couples counseling, marital counseling, so they could move forward. And he basically told her no. I think the saddest part was when Portia came back from the deposition and she was talking to her mother and her sister, and she broke down crying, and she just couldn't believe that she was going through a divorce and the way her husband played her. But while Portia was crying, she also hinted to the fact that she believes that Cordell may be on the down low or may be gay. She says there was many times in her marriages where she would, dress up like a Barbie doll and try and be sexy and, try and appease him, and he would act like he was so uninterested in her body, like he didn't want her. Her mother feels like, if Cordell got married to her because she was a token wife and she was some type of front to his homosexuality. So it was crazy. Everybody was on Twitter going in, and there's been rumors that have plagued Cordell for years that he was homosexual or at least bisexual. It plagued him when he was in the NFL, and it plagued him once he got back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And I hope she gets through it, and I hope she comes out stronger. A lot of people, when they go into a marriage, they go into a marriage because they plan on being married forever. Nobody ever goes into a marriage thinking they'll be divorced a year, 2, 3, 4 years down the line. So it is very painful, and I understand her pain. I definitely see where she's coming from, and I know how it is to want your marriage to work out and how you're willing to do anything to fix your marriage. But unless both parties are willing and ready and able, and they want the same, it's never going to work. You can't want it more than somebody else. If somebody else doesn't want it, you just have to let them go, let them stew in their own misery. It makes no sense to hold yourself back or to be in a miserable relationship just to say that you're married. Another thing I found sad too was when the mother was talking about how when Portia had a miscarriage and she was in the hospital for a week, Cordell came and saw her one time, and it was to the point where the nurses were asking Portia, like, aren't you married? Don't you have a husband? For him to not come and be by his wife's side while she had a miscarriage of their child was really, really sad. And this just goes to show you that sometimes miscarriages happen for a reason. Sometimes miscarriages can be a blessing, because it makes no sense to bring a child into this world, in the midst of a divorce, in the midst of him, disrespecting her the way that he did. So it wasn't meant to be, and I think maybe she should count her blessings, like her mama said, that she didn't end up having a baby by him. So, it was just a really, really sad but touching scene. And I'm glad her mother and her sister chose to be there to be a shoulder to cry on for her, because Portia definitely needs that right now. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Cynthia Bailey. So Cynthia, as you guys know, Cynthia is like my girl crush. I am so in love with Cynthia. I think she is beautiful. I love her cheekbones, and I hope to God I look like her when I'm in my 40s. Cynthia looks damn good. That's a fierce woman right there. And I love her personality. She's just so sweet. But I feel bad for her. You know, this marriage is just really, really odd. So the scene opens and we see Cynthia. She's there with the Bailey boys. And they're taking down, you know, the Bailey agency. They're taking down her pictures. They're taking down the runway stage. And everybody's like, damn, you know, what's going on? Are they foreclosing? What happened? Well, what happened is that Peter decided to buy a warehouse building behind Cynthia's back. So Cynthia knew nothing about this purchase. He had purchased the building 6 months in advance. He didn't tell her anything. And then one day he decides to tell her, you know what? I need you to move the Bailey agency into this warehouse. I have this huge space for you. And, you know, while she was flattered, she was still really disappointed because she felt like, you know what? You're my husband. This is our money. You need to speak to me, you know, before you make big purchases like this. You know, you can't just take our money and then just go buy a warehouse and not talk to me about it. I think it's about time that Cynthia gets her own account because it seems like Peter likes to open up businesses and then they tend to close because he doesn't pay the bills or it's always something. But it seems like they have a lot of financial issues and Peter doesn't seem to know how to manage money and he likes to spend and not even ask his wife for her opinion. So while I do love the new Bailey agency, you know, I think it's fierce, I also think it was wrong for Peter to purchase that space using their money and not talking to his wife about it. When you're in a relationship and you're in a marriage, it's a partnership. You wouldn't just go into business with a partner and then not tell your partner that you're going to make a big purchase. You're going to sit down and talk to your partner, you're going to go over the books. And that's what Peter should have done with Cynthia. But Cynthia being the person that she is, she's going to make the best of it. So while Cynthia and the Bailey boys are, you know, taking down everything and packing up, who walks into the agency but Miss Gone with the Wind Fabulous? Kenya Moore comes out of nowhere acting like her and Cynthia are the best of friends. She's twirling and she's talking to the Bailey boys like she didn't cuss them out last season. You know, she was just being real extra and real dramatic. And then had the nerve to complain about how nobody checked on her when she was evicted and how nobody called her and how she was feeling some type of way. And Cynthia's looking at her like, bitch, we're in the middle of moving. I don't know what you want, but you control your ass. Smooth up out my agency. You know, Kenya's just so damn extra, but we will come back to Kenya in a minute. So in the next scene, we have Phaedra and Apollo. Phaedra is such a mess. Basically, she announces to the world that her and Apollo have moved and they are now living in the 90210 of Atlanta, aka Buckhead. So they moved into this huge house and Apollo is in charge of construction. I guess he's trying to rebuild a few things. And recently, Phaedra just had a baby 2 months ago. And I don't know what the baby's real name is because all Phaedra did was call the baby Mr. President. She said because Aiden is her prince, this new baby's going to be the president of the free world. So that's what she kept calling her baby through all the show. Mr. President, Mr. President. I was like, Phaedra needs to get her life. You know, but it's just crazy, her and Apollo's dynamic. You know, it's almost like Apollo's just there for eye candy. I don't really think they have a really good chemistry. I don't know what it is, their marriage. It seems like they're just in two different places. I don't feel that chemistry when I look at Apollo and Phaedra. I feel like when they do try and show each other some type of love and chemistry, it seems really, really forced. So, and then she talks to him kind of crazy. She kind of belittles him. And it's almost like, well, then why are you with him? Why are you married to him? And why did you just have another baby with him if you're frustrated by the fact that he doesn't really have a job and he's supposed to be helping out around the house, but you and him have, like, you know, two different visions of how you want the house to be. I think she did a lot of complaining. You could tell that it's starting to get on Apollo's nerves. Every time he looked at her, he was looking at her like, ma'am, I'm gonna need you to shut the hell up so I can get back to working on this damn roof or whatever the hell he was calling himself trying to build. But I don't know, it just seemed like there was like a little bit of friction and tension there when they came on the scene. So moving right along, so to our next favorite couple, Kandi and Todd. Now, Twitter went in on Kandi. I don't know what the hell that mop was on top of Candy's head, but it was a hot mess. I didn't like her with the bright red hair. I didn't like her confessional with the straight long red hair. As much as I can't stand K. Michelle's the only person that I've seen thus far who can wear red hair and it looks somewhat decent. Rashida Ali should never wear red hair, and Kandi needs to let that go. You know, so folks had jokes. Folks put up a bunch of memes about Candy's hair. But besides Candy's hair, her and Todd were having some serious conversations, and Todd feels like it was because of Kandi and Nene and all them getting involved in Portia and Cordell's relationship. That's what caused their relationship to filter and eventually break up. Kandi took offense to that because she felt like, you know what, that's their relationship. You know, they're grown. Regardless of what we were saying to her in the limousine, you know, that shouldn't have a factor on their relationship. And then Todd also goes on to talk about, you know, how he's trying to get a new production job. He applied for some jobs on BET. Todd has a pretty cool resume. A lot of folks think that Candy's just taking care of him. And Kandi said it irritates her because a lot of folks think that she's a sugar mama. And Kandi says she's not a sugar mama because she wrote No Scrubs. That really don't mean shit. A lot of folks write a lot of songs and they still end up in stupid positions. So that don't mean anything. Let's keep it real. Most folks write a song, produce songs to get a check. You're not necessarily writing a song to mirror your life after. So her writing No Scrubs don't mean anything. It doesn't mean that she's not taking care of Todd, and it doesn't mean that she is taking care of Todd. To me, it's just a good ass song, nothing more, nothing less. So Todd is basically talking about how he applied, to be a producer at BET, and he's waiting to hear back. And Candy's kind of feeling some type of way because he's having to take a lot of jobs out of town. Now, I think the reason why Todd is having a lot of issues finding production work is because Todd broke that fourth wall. If anybody knows anything about being a producer, being a cameraman, you're never supposed to break that fourth wall. You're never supposed to have a relationship with somebody on the show. And a lot of times that can go to hurt people. So when you go to apply for the next job, a lot of companies are going to give you the side eye because they feel like, you know what, you worked on the Real Housewives of Atlanta and you ended up dating one of the stars. How do we know that you're not going to, end up in a relationship with somebody else? You have to keep a professional relationship. And because he broke that fourth wall, he started dating Candy. I think that's why he's struggling trying to find a good, consistent production job, because a lot of people feel like his professionalism was at question when he started dating Candy. So Candy talks about, how Todd asked her to marry her and she shows off her ring. And, and I'm happy for Candy. Candy has been looking for love for the longest time. She wants to get married. She wants to have another baby. And Todd is willing to do all that. But Mama Joyce has an issue with Todd. Mama Joyce feels like she's hearing a lot of stuff, on the streets about Todd. She thinks Todd's an opportunist. And Candy's really upset. And Todd is telling her, like, you know what, you need to talk to your mother. We can't continue to let this just go and fester. We have to get this nipped in the bud. So Candy just feels like she needs to wait for the right time to talk to her mom. Personally, I feel like Mama Joyce is always overstepping her boundaries. She did the same thing with Candy and AJ. She was upset about that relationship. She felt some type of way. And then once AJ died, she tried to act like she didn't say all that, bullshit about him. I just think she needs to let Candy live her life and stop trying to live her life vicariously through Candy. Candy needs to do her and stop worrying about what the hell her mama thinks. Yes, that's your mother. Yes, you're always going to love your mother. But your mom should not dictate your relationship that heavy. So last but not least, so now we're going back to the Bailey Agency grand opening. So Cynthia's having an all-white party for the grand opening of the new Bailey Agency. Everyone comes through: Nene, Greg, Apollo, Phaedra, and crazy-ass Keonce. Because Kenya thinks that people confuse her with Beyonce. So I'm going to call her ass Keonce. Phaedra went ahead and called her Bath Sauce Barbie, and I fell the hell out. The funny thing about Kenya is that she loves to make shit about her. You know what I'm saying? I just don't understand why she thinks the world revolves around her. But Kenya ends up running into Portia, and she starts asking Portia about the whole Cordell situation. First of all, who the hell is that tacky that you would ask somebody about their divorce at a party? Portia's trying to have a good time. She done cried enough tears. She's not worried about Cordell. And it's not like Kenya was coming from a genuine place. So I thought it was very disrespectful of her to ask Portia anything, especially when they're not close. So I'm glad Portia checked her and told her, you know what, I'm not here for that. I'm here to have a good time. And Portia kept it moving. So the talk of the night was Kenya and Nene Leakes. So Kenya goes up to Nene and she basically starts telling Nene that she's really upset. She feels some type of way because Nene didn't reach out to her when she was evicted. And Nene was like, you know what, why would I reach out to you? You're Kenya Moore. You're supposed to be rich. You're supposed to be, having all these movies and producing all this shit. Why would you be getting evicted? I thought you was very rich. So Kenya gets offended and she's like, I was going through a lot of stuff. And Nene had to check her like, you know what, I was planning a wedding. I sent you an invitation. You was invited and I haven't heard nothing from you since. So how dare you think I'm supposed to reach out to you because you're getting evicted, but you didn't even come to my wedding or even tell me congratulations personally. You sent me a congratulations on Twitter and I haven't talked to you since Lord knows when. And Kenya's just going back and forth, and then she tells Nene that she's upset because Nene invited Walter. And Nene's like, okay, that was my wedding. And I don't care who you are. I'm not going to let no bitch tell me who I can and can't hang with, who I can and can't invite to one of my functions. Nene starts going off on her. Then Kenya proceeds to grab Nene's ear and tell Nene that she needs to listen to her. Why did Kenya do that? But Nene handled herself. Nene's trying to change her ways. The old Nene Leakes, like she said on Twitter, would have beat the hell out of Kenya. But, the new Nene just walked off and let her do her thing. Nene handled herself really, really good. Basically, she made Kendra out to look crazy as hell like always. This was a really, really good episode. They showed previews of what's to come, and it seems like it's going to be a really, really crazy, interesting season. So anyways, go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about the first episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. All right, deuces.